Welcome to my video, guys. Today I will be going over my latest and probably my last AR-15 build, the Metal Gear Solid 4 M4 Custom Clone. In this video I'm going to be going over the background of this gun from the video game, how you can build it yourself, because this is an AR-15, you can pretty much put it together yourself through parts, and just the overall shooting characteristics on this gun. Alright, so, first of all, the Metal Gear Solid 4 M4 Custom, you get in, obviously, Metal Gear Solid 4 in Chapter 1. You meet this arms dealer named Drebin, 893, and he basically gives it to you for free and explains to you how Drebin points works, the war economy, and ID-locked guns. And this is, in the game, probably the most versatile weapon. Save for a couple other guns, it pretty much makes every other gun redundant because you can put so many aftermarket accessories on there to suit anything that could happen during the mission. So probably one of the best guns in the game, and you get it for free. Alright, so let's go over from the front all the way to the rear. The front starts off with the flash hider. This is actually a Troy medieval flash hider. According to the Metal Gear Wiki, the flash hider on this gun is supposed to be the original, I think, pre-2005 version of the original flash hider. I've looked at the pictures of them and compared it to the in-game model. I don't think either of the Troy medieval ones are right. I think they just put the Troy because that was the first one they found that actually has a glassbreaker aggressive spikes at the front. Regardless, I think this is close enough, so unless you're absolutely OCD about these kind of details, it shouldn't bother you. The only other flash hider that I've seen that even remotely looks like that has been completely discontinued, so good luck trying to find it. You will also need a 14.5-inch barrel, because it has to be a M4 profile, so it has to have the feed ramps and all that. One thing to note, and I don't know how many people from outside the United States is going to be watching this video, but one of the dumb rules that we have in the United States is that if you want to get a rifle or that has a barrel shorter than 16 inches, you have to have it registered to the government. And you also have to pay a $200 tax stamp, or $200 to file for a tax stamp, and then you have to wait for the whole paperwork to process so you can actually have a gun with a barrel shorter than 16 inches. It's a very, I wouldn't say it's an arduous process, but it's an unnecessary process and kind of an expensive one. So one way you can get around doing this, and thankfully the flash hider is long enough to be able to accommodate this, is if you pin and weld, which if you see these little weld marks, the flash hider, so it's permanently attached onto the barrel, that can be considered as an extra barrel length. So luckily for us, if you have a 14.5-inch barrel and you're willing to pin and weld the flash hider, you don't have to SBR and engrave your receiver and pay the $200 tax stamp. So awesome. All right, moving on. You will going to need a PRI flip-up front sight. It's going to be 0.75 diameter because this is an M4 clone, so that's the standard barrel diameter. There's two versions. One is the set screw version. The other is the clamp-on style. I believe the correct version is supposed to be the clamp-on style, although I don't think anyone's going to be mad if you use the set screw style. Fun fact, this is actually the same gas block that is used in the Mark 12, used in SOCOM, or the military unit is escaping me, but it's some special forces unit. Yeah, that is exactly what is used in the Mark 12. Now, in the cutscene where Drebin explains the AR-15 or the M4 Custom to Snake, this gun is free-floated, of course, and it is free-floated due to this free-float rail system by Knight's Armament. If you are going to be getting this rail, make sure it is for a carbine length gas system, because that is this is an M4, so it uses a carbine length gas system. Yeah, it's the way it attaches is really cool. It basically uses this locking ring, and then there's 2 pegs, and then you basically screw it on real tight, and then it basically locks the whole assembly into place. So, and it's typical Knight's armament. So even if you order this, don't be surprised if you see a bunch of scratch marks and dings and everything else, because that's just Knight's armament. If you thought H&K was bad with how they treat, well, not giving what the customers want, I mean, trust me, Knight's armament is even worse about it. All right, now moving on. You're going to be needing a upper receiver and lower receiver. I use a Knight's Armament SR15 lower because in the game, Drebin explains to Snake that this gun is high precision, not like that government issue shit. So I didn't want to go with a standard Colt, especially with Colt from present day, because I mean, from what I understand, Colt outsources a lot of the labor for their parts. So even the Colt M4 clones that you're getting from Colt is not even a true Colt made gun. They just pretty much put their logo on it. And because of that, that's why a lot of people say their quality control has been taking a sharp downward turn lately. That's why I went with something much higher end, but still considered a military grade, which is why I went with Knight's Armament. And like I said, get ready for scratches and dings, because that's what Knight's Armament does. Let's see. And also, if you for whatever reason are going to decide to use SR15 lower, like I am, make sure you get the version without the ambidextrous magazine release. Next, you're going to be needing a mil-spec hammer, mil-spec trigger group. This is actually made by ALG, so basically it's a mil-spec trigger assembly, but all the parts have I forgot what finish they use, but basically it's coated, so it's a lot more. All the parts are first polished and then coated with a very slick finish. So the trigger pull, even though it's still mil spec, it feels much lighter and much more clean. So that's why I went with this one, even though in the game the trigger is not silver. But I can live with that. The rear sight is a ARMS rear sight. It's pretty cool, honestly. I thought it was just a standard rear sight, but like a typical AR-15s, there's 2 apertures on it, and it even has a cutout. So if you match it along with the rear sight or the front sight, it pretty much acts like a pistol sight for close range combat. It's also, what's also kind of neat is the fact that it folds like this. Hold on. Yeah, it folds like this with this spring-loaded lock, pretty much. And to unlock it, basically you hold it down, push it, and then it flips up this way. Very old-fashioned way of doing a front or doing a flip-up sight, because I mean nowadays with like the Magpul EMBA sights being standard, you basically push down and then it flips up. This one, they made sure that you absolutely want to flip up these sights for you to use it. Another kind of cool fact is that the sights, instead of being completely vertical, is actually at an angle. So in case you ever were to drop it, it increases the chances that this wouldn't break. Kind of a cool little feature of engineering right there. A selector switch is standard mil-spec. Mil-spec buffer tube. This is made by Voltor. Not in the game, but just I use a Voltor buffer tube. And on the other side, as you can see, I used a BCM upper receiver, and I used a Daniel Defense nickel-plated bolt carrier group. And as long as it's nickel-plated and it's MPI tested, I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter what bolt carrier group you use, but make sure it's quality. And just because I wanted to make sure, because I thought, a Daniel Defense bolt carrier group probably matches with a Daniel Defense barrel the best. The barrel on this gun is also a Daniel Defense 14.5-inch carbine length barrel. All right, and for the sight, you have two options. You can go with a Trijicon ACOG, or you can also go with if you want to be a lot more accurate than I am, you can go with the Aimpoint, Comp M2, or also designated as in the military as the M68. I actually went with the Aimpoint PRO, simply because the Aimpoint the Comp M2 is it's kind of outdated. It doesn't have a very good battery life, and it also, if I remember correctly, there's a version with a 2 MOA dot and a 4 MOA dot, and I think the 4 MOA dot is the one that you're probably the most available. And thanks to all the cloners out there, because this that sighting system is just so widely used, despite the fact that it's an outdated and discontinued sight, it still commands a premium. I've seen M68 sights go, or Comp M2s go for like $600 or $700 on average, just because they want cloners want to complete the build to every single exact part. I wasn't willing to go that far, so I chose the PRO because it's cheaper, it looks almost exactly the same, and it also has a better battery life. But it also has, despite the lower price tag, it is also known to be as bomb-proof as every other Aimpoint optic out there. Well, that pretty much covers the entire build. Oh, and you also need a tan A2 grip, as well as a tan stock. Make sure there's standard mil-spec M4 style. Fun fact about these two pieces of furniture: of all these parts that of all the parts that I had to locate in order to put this build together, these two tan parts were actually the hardest for me to track down. Like, all the other parts are kind of outdated, and because M-LOK is the new hotness, and nobody wants these parts. So any store that still has some in stock, it's probably been in their inventory for years, with nobody else who wants to buy it, because there's not enough weirdos like me who would want to build or dedicated this much money into building pretty much a video game gun. However, the tan stock and grips, for one thing, availability just isn't there, and nobody really wants enough for companies to make more. So I honestly had a much harder time getting these two parts than all the other parts combined. So how does it shoot? Really, really well. It shoots like every mil-spec AR-15, or how you would expect every mil-spec AR-15. Because of the muzzle brake, it does jump around a little bit less than a typical AR-15. Not that AR-15s jump around a whole lot anyway, but it's also much, much louder. One thing that I've also done, on top of getting the flash hider pinned, is that I also had the gas block drilled and pinned as well. This screw is not actually part of the gas block. I actually had a gunsmith drill a hole and then pin a screw right through the barrel, so it keeps it in place. Reason being is that that these gas blocks are known for walking off. Pretty much any type of clamp-on style gas block is known for walking off if you or shooting your gun under very high rates of fire, like full extended fully automatic range sessions. Is it a problem for most people in the civilian world? Probably not. But I'm kind of paranoid about these things, so that's the reason why I had that pinned on there. And I really don't know why. Well, and considering that in Metal Gear Solid 4, when depending on what kind of which way you're deciding to play the game, whether you want to play it old-fashioned, totally stealth like, or want to go guns blazing, this is probably not the best. Just as is, this is probably not the best sight design that you want for if you're laying down fully automatic fire. But yeah, that is pretty much my M4 custom build. This is probably my favorite AR-15, just because to me AR-15s are mostly tools. And because they're so utilitarian. Now, don't get me wrong, they shoot fantastic, but because they're all about functionality, I just find them kind of boring. But because this also is in one of my favorite video game movies of all time, it just has that extra cool factor that really makes taking this gun out to the range just a joy. Now, I put about 200 rounds through this gun. I really wish that I could put some more, but because of the foxdie virus pandemic that's going on, and also the fact that all the Drebins in my area are a bunch of price gouging assholes, I don't shooting a lot of ammunition is currently very cost prohibitive for me. So anyway, that is my video of my Metal Gear Solid 4 M4 Custom. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and that's all I got for you. Till next time, stay gold.